I didn't show up at the wedding. She didn't make a scene, did she? Ryan Whitmore stood at the end of the hospital corridor, loosening his tie. His voice held the weary confidence of a man who believed the world would wait for him. Vanessa's examinations were over. The doctor had said she was in no danger and only needed to remain under observation overnight. As far as Ryan was concerned, Claire might cry, send a few angry messages, and refuse to answer his calls for an hour or two. Then she would wait for him to return and explain. That was how it had worked for 7 years. Every time he had abandoned Claire for Vanessa, Claire had eventually been the one to make peace. His assistant, Mark, did not answer. Ryan turned and frowned. What is it? Mark swallowed. Miss Bennett didn't make a scene. Some of the tension left Ryan's face. I knew she wouldn't. Tell the hotel to reset everything for tomorrow. She likes white roses, so don't let them take the arrangements down. The wedding wasn't cancelled either. Ryan's hand froze halfway to his collar. Mark lowered his voice. The ceremony went ahead at the scheduled time. How could it go ahead without a groom? Mark looked at him and forced out the words. She replaced you. The corridor went so quiet that the only sound was the steady beeping of medical equipment. Ryan stared at him as if he had spoken another language. With whom? Adrian Sterling. In an instant, every trace of confidence vanished from Ryan's face. 6 hours earlier, at the Bennett estate in New York's Hudson Valley, the wedding planner rushed into the bridal suite just as Claire fastened the pearl earrings her mother had given her. Claire, the groom is gone. The room fell silent. Claire looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back wore a clean-lined satin gown. Her makeup was flawless, and her expression was unexpectedly calm. She had gotten up at 4 that morning and spent 5 hours preparing. The drive outside the estate was crowded with guests' cars. Hundreds of people from New York's financial and media circles were already seated. The livestream crew had finished setting up. Ryan had left 20 minutes before the ceremony. Did he say where he was going? Claire asked. The planner hesitated. Miss Vanessa Bennett was in a car accident. Mr. Whitmore received a call and left immediately. Maya Cole, standing beside Claire, slammed the bouquet onto the dressing table. Vanessa. Again. Maya worked with Claire at North Star News and was her closest friend. She knew better than anyone how often Vanessa had used the same tactic during the past 7 years. A heart scare on Claire's birthday. Too much alcohol on an anniversary. A sudden disappearance during Claire's promotion dinner. Vanessa had even claimed to have cut her hand in her apartment on the night Ryan planned to propose. Every time, Ryan ran to her. Every time, he told Claire, we grew up together. I can't just ignore her. Claire's phone rang. Ryan's name glowed on the screen. She answered, but said nothing. Claire, I'm sorry, he said hurriedly. Vanessa's car hit a guardrail. The hospital thinks she may have internal bleeding. I have to stay with her. You're already at the hospital? Yes. The ceremony starts in 15 minutes. He paused, as though trying to calm an unreasonable child. I know. I'll have Mark notify everyone that we're moving it to tomorrow. Explain it to Grandpa Henry for me. I'll cover whatever the hotel charges. Claire watched the warmth drain from the eyes in the mirror. And what happens if Vanessa feels sick again tomorrow? Don't attack her right now. Ryan's voice sharpened. She's your sister. She is not my sister. The room went still. Vanessa was not the Bennett's biological daughter. 26 years earlier, a hospital nurse had mixed up 2 newborn identification bracelets. Vanessa had gone home with the wealthy Bennett family, while the Bennett's biological daughter, Claire, had been raised in a violent household by an alcoholic father. The truth had not emerged until Claire was 22, when a database match exposed the mistake. Charles and Eleanor Bennett brought Claire to New York, but they could not bear to send away the young woman they had raised for more than 2 decades. Vanessa kept the Bennett name, her room, her trust fund, and her place in the family. Claire was repeatedly told to understand Vanessa's insecurity. Claire had understood everyone. She understood why her parents could not let go of their adopted daughter. She understood why Vanessa feared losing everything. She understood that Ryan and Vanessa had grown up together. She had even tried to understand why she herself was always placed last. No one had ever asked whether Claire wanted to keep understanding. On the phone, Ryan lowered his voice. This isn't the time to drag up the past. Vanessa is waiting for her results. Be mature, Claire. I'll make it up to you tomorrow. How? We'll hold the wedding again. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. Claire laughed softly. The sound made unease stir in Ryan's chest. I want a husband who won't abandon me on our wedding day. Claire. Ryan, we're over. His shock turned quickly to anger. I admit leaving was wrong, but you can't throw away 7 years because of one emergency. You're upset. We'll talk when I get back. It wasn't one emergency, Claire said quietly. It was every choice you made for 7 years. She ended the call, removed the pearl earrings, and returned them to their box. Maya stepped closer. I'll tell the planner to cancel everything. And if the tabloids print one vicious word, I'll help you sue every last one of them. Claire did not answer. Outside, the musicians had begun the pre-ceremony music. The guests were still waiting in the garden, unaware of what had happened. If Claire canceled now, the next morning's headlines would be merciless. The true Bennett heiress abandoned at the altar. The adopted daughter wins again. That was exactly the ending Vanessa wanted. Claire picked up her phone and found a number she had not called in years. 3 years earlier, a fire had broken out during a charity gala. Claire had gone back through the smoke to help a trapped server. Near the stairwell, she found Adrian Sterling unconscious. She dragged him to a window and stayed with him until firefighters got them both out. When he woke, Adrian had said only one thing to her. I owe you my life. If you ever need anything, call me. Claire had never imagined she would actually use that promise. The phone rang once. A deep, controlled voice answered. Claire. She blinked. You saved my number? I told you I was waiting for you to ask. In a private lounge at Teterboro Airport, Adrian stood before a wall of glass. Beyond it, his plane waited to depart for Zurich. Claire tightened her grip on the phone. Where are you? Teterboro. You haven't taken off? 10 minutes. She closed her eyes. I was supposed to get married today. I know. The groom left. There was a 2-second silence. When Adrian spoke again, his voice was colder. Where did he go? To Vanessa. This time, he said nothing. Claire forced herself to continue. You said I could ask you for anything. Yes. I need a groom. The boarding light flashed in the distance. Adrian looked through the glass at his waiting plane. Do you need me to help you finish a ceremony, or do you need a real husband? Claire went still. She had only been trying to save the last of her dignity. She had not thought beyond that night. I don't know, she admitted. I only know I won't let them turn today into the humiliation they planned for me. Adrian picked up his coat and looked at his assistant, Ethan. Cancel the flight. Then he spoke into the phone. What time is the ceremony? 6. Delay it 40 minutes. You're coming. Wait for me. After the call ended, Claire remained motionless. Maya stared at her. Who is that? Adrian Sterling. Maya's mouth opened, but no sound came out for several seconds. Adrian Sterling of Sterling Capital? Claire nodded. What did you ask him to do? Be the groom. 40 minutes later, the chapel doors reopened. The guests had grown restless. News of Ryan's departure had begun to spread. Some people felt sorry for Claire. Others could barely conceal their satisfaction. Many were certain she would never show her face. Then the musicians began the wedding march again. Every head turned. Claire entered the chapel alone. Her father was not beside her. She did not lower her eyes or try to hide. Her long train swept across the aisle as she walked toward the altar with such composure that, for a moment, it was easy to forget she had just been abandoned. Whispers rose from the pews. The groom is gone. What is she doing? She can't be planning to hold the ceremony alone. The Bennett family will be the joke of New York by morning. Claire had reached the center of the aisle when the rear doors opened again. Adrian Sterling walked in wearing a black tuxedo. He had clearly dressed on the way. His bow tie was not perfectly straight, and the shoulders of his coat still carried the chill of early winter. Yet the moment he appeared, the entire chapel seemed to fall under a spell of silence. Sterling Capital controlled billions in assets, while Adrian himself rarely attended private social events. The press called him the most inaccessible man on Wall Street. Now he walked past every stunned guest and stopped in front of Claire. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm late." Claire looked at him. "You still have time to regret this." He offered his hand. "I already regretted something 3 years ago." "What?" "Waking up and saying only thank you." Before she could understand, he took her hand and led her to the altar. The officiant looked understandably unsettled by the replacement groom. Ryan's name appeared on the original marriage license, so the ceremony could not make Claire and Adrian legally married that night. Adrian did not try to hide that fact. He addressed the room directly. "Tonight, we will make our vows in public. A legal marriage will require a new license, and I will respect Claire's decision. If she still wants this after tonight, I will go with her to the clerk's office." For the first time all day, Claire truly relaxed. He was not using her humiliation to force her into another trap. The officiant began again. When Adrian was asked whether he would stand beside Claire, he did not look at the guests or the cameras. He looked only at her. "I will." When it was Claire's turn, she paused. Ryan had promised that she would never face anything alone, yet he had walked away on the one day she needed him most. The man before her had abandoned a flight to Europe because she had said she needed him. "I will." Adrian slid a ring, rushed over from a nearby jeweler, onto her finger. When the officiant said he could kiss the bride, Adrian bent closer and whispered, "May I?" Claire nodded. His kiss was gentle and brief, but it silenced every doubt in the room. Within half an hour, clips from the live stream had spread across the internet. #RunawayGroom replaced, #Adrian Sterling married, and #Bennett wedding twist all began trending. At the hospital, Ryan still knew none of it. Vanessa lay in bed with a small bandage on her forehead and just the right amount of color missing from her face. She held Ryan's hand. "You should go back." Claire must be devastated. Ryan glanced at the examination room door. "I'll leave when the doctor confirms you're all right." Vanessa lowered her eyes to hide the smile tugging at her mouth. She knew Claire well. Claire endured. Claire waited. Claire swallowed every humiliation. By morning, all of New York would know that the biological Bennett daughter could not even keep a groom at her own wedding. Vanessa had no idea Claire had finally stopped waiting. After the reception, Adrian did not take Claire to a hotel suite. Instead, he had Ethan bring a document into the bridal lounge. "What is this?" Claire asked. "A draft marriage agreement." She opened it and lifted an eyebrow. They would remain publicly married for 2 years. Their property would stay entirely separate. Either person could end the relationship with 30 days' notice. Adrian could not interfere with Claire's career, and Claire would assume no responsibility for Sterling Capital's business. One clause specifically stated that neither party owed the other physical intimacy. "You had an attorney write this in 40 minutes? I gave him the basic terms from the car." "Why 2 years?" "Tonight was public. If we announce tomorrow that it was only a rescue performance, the press will say 2 men rejected you in 24 hours. They'll also accuse me of using a fake marriage to manipulate the market." Adrian leaned against the table. 2 years is long enough for the public to lose interest and long enough for you to decide what you truly want. Claire turned to the last page. "What do you get?" "A stable public image. Sterling Capital is pursuing a cross-border acquisition, and my board believes I'm too unpredictable." He presented it like an equal business exchange. Only Ethan knew that the board had never asked Adrian to marry. The supposed need for a stable image was simply a convenient exit Adrian had invented for Claire. She did not sign immediately. "What about legal registration?" "The new license can be ready next week. You can change your mind before then." Adrian pushed the pen toward her. "Tonight is not a legal trap. You can walk away whenever you choose." Claire studied him and realized that the cold, forceful man everyone feared was offering her something no one else ever had. Choice. She picked up the pen and signed. "I'll go to the clerk's office with you on Monday." A faint smile touched Adrian's eyes. "All right." At 1 in the morning, Ryan finally learned the truth from Mark. He rushed out of the hospital and drove to the Bennett estate, but the guests were gone. Crushed white roses lay beside the aisle while workers dismantled the lights. Ryan grabbed the wedding planner's arm. "Where is Claire?" "Mr. Sterling took her home. They aren't really married." The planner looked at him but did not answer. Ryan called Claire again and again. She never picked up. At last, he went to her Manhattan apartment. Claire was packing a small suitcase. She was not moving into Adrian's penthouse yet. She only planned to stay there for a few days while they worked out the rules of their arrangement. When the doorbell rang, she expected Maya. Instead, Ryan stood outside. His tie was crooked, his eyes bloodshot. He looked like a man who had finally realized that events had moved beyond his control. "What exactly are you doing with Adrian?" Claire remained in the doorway. "It's none of your business." "Of course it is. A few hours ago, you were my fiancé. A few hours ago, you left before our wedding. Vanessa had an accident. The doctor says she has a mild concussion." Ryan stared. "How do you know that?" "Maya called the hospital." Claire met his eyes. "You didn't even wait for a doctor to confirm her condition before deciding that hundreds of guests and I could wait for you. In your mind, I can always be moved to tomorrow." Ryan stepped closer. "I thought you would understand." "I understood for 7 years. Your ceremony with Adrian has no legal force. It will next week." The color drained from Ryan's face. "You're doing this to punish me." "At first, maybe part of me was," Claire admitted. "But he asked what I wanted before making a decision." "Ryan, that alone is more than you gave me." He reached for her. Claire stepped back. "Don't touch me." Ryan froze. In 7 years, she had never looked at him that way. She was not furious. She was not heartbroken. She looked at him as if he were a stranger. "I'll give you time to calm down," he said. "When you realize Adrian won't actually marry you, you'll understand this was only an impulse." Claire did not argue. She closed the door. The click of the lock was quiet, but it sounded like a wall he would never cross again. A week later, Claire and Adrian legally married at the Manhattan City Clerk's office. There were no reporters and no family members. Maya and Ethan served as witnesses. When the clerk asked whether they were entering the marriage voluntarily, Adrian looked at Claire first. She gave a small nod. Only then did he say yes. Outside the clerk's office, Adrian handed her a key. "The primary bedroom is yours. And you. There's a guest room beside the study." Claire looked at him in surprise. "The agreement says you never have to do anything you don't want to do," he said. She took the key. "Thank you." "Claire." "Yes. You don't have to thank me for basic respect." The words stayed with her for a long time. Moving into Adrian's penthouse did not transform Claire's life overnight. She still woke at 7, drove her own car to North Star News, and continued working as an investigative producer. Adrian did not ask her to resign, assign a chauffeur to monitor her movements, or expect her to attend every event on his calendar. He merely told the housekeeper to stock the refrigerator with the oat milk she liked and cleared an entire wall in the living room so she could organize interview notes and research files. They did not see much of each other at first. Adrian often worked past midnight. Claire regularly stayed late at the newsroom. Yet somehow a lamp began to remain lit over the dining table, and the coffee machine seemed to start humming whenever both of them appeared downstairs at the same time. They were cautious roommates slowly learning one another's habits. They were also, neither would admit, beginning to look forward to coming home. 3 days after the wedding, Vanessa posted a photograph of Claire entering the Bennett estate alone. The caption read, "My sister's first visit home after her wedding." Unfortunately, her new husband is too busy to come with her. "Does anyone know how I can cheer her up?" It looked concerned. The comments beneath it were anything but. A replacement groom was never going to take her seriously. Adrian only saved her from public embarrassment. She had a backup man ready on her wedding day. How long had they really been seeing each other? Ryan is the true victim. Claire saw the post while sitting in her grandfather's study. Henry Bennett was the only member of the family who had stood firmly beside her from the day she returned. He studied the ring on her finger before asking, "Are you happy?" "I don't know yet." "Is he kind to you?" Claire considered the question. "He respects me." Henry nodded. Respect lasts longer than excitement. At lunch, Vanessa placed her phone face up on the table so everyone could see the cruel comments. Eleanor Bennett frowned at Claire. What exactly is your relationship with Adrian? If this is only meant to provoke Ryan, end it quickly. Don't drag the Bennett name through another scandal. Charles added, Sterling Capital is negotiating a major acquisition. Adrian cannot devote his attention to domestic life. You should find a way to turn this marriage into a useful alliance. Claire set down her fork. So you don't care whether I was abandoned. You care whether Adrian can benefit the company. Eleanor's expression hardened. We're thinking of your future. Vanessa caused chaos on my wedding day, and neither of you asked a single question. Now that I'm married, you're eager to teach me how to use my husband. Vanessa gave a wounded sigh. Claire, I'm only worried about you. Adrian wouldn't even come home with you. Why sacrifice yourself just to get back at Ryan? Claire looked at her. Since you're so worried, why don't you show us your complete hospital report? Let everyone see how badly you were injured that day. Vanessa's smile stiffened. A deep voice came from the doorway. She hasn't sacrificed anything. Everyone turned. Adrian entered in a charcoal overcoat. Ethan followed with a suitcase. Claire rose. Aren't you supposed to be on your way to Zurich? The flight was delayed. Ethan wisely said nothing. In reality, the plane had already taxied toward the runway. After Adrian saw Vanessa's post, he ordered the crew back to the gate. He came to Claire's side and rested one hand naturally on the back of her chair. I shouldn't miss the first time I accompany my wife home. Vanessa forced a smile. Adrian, it's been so long. His gaze was cool. You should call me your brother-in-law. The air around the table tightened. Vanessa's eyes immediately filled with tears. It's only a habit. We knew each other growing up too. Knowing someone does not make you close. Adrian pulled out the chair beside Claire and sat down. Charles quickly adopted a warmer manner and began asking about Sterling Capital's acquisition. Adrian answered politely without offering a single business commitment. Eleanor cautiously raised the subject of Claire's 10% stake in the Bennett family company. Henry originally gave those shares to her as a wedding gift. Given the unusual circumstances of this marriage, perhaps the family trust should manage them temporarily. Henry set down his fork with a sharp sound. I gave those shares to Claire. No one needs to manage them for her. Adrian added, Claire has her own attorney and financial advisor. Her assets are hers to control. Vanessa suddenly said, but Claire just said she might reconcile with Ryan. Claire frowned. When did I say that? In the kitchen. You said if this marriage failed, you might go back to Ryan. It was a complete invention. Vanessa clearly expected Adrian to react with anger. Instead, he turned to Claire. Did you say that? No. Then I believe you. 5 simple words destroyed every trap Vanessa had prepared. Adrian took Claire's hand on the edge of the table. His voice was quiet but carried to every person in the room. I don't care whom she loved in the past. I care who thinks they can hurt my wife from this day forward. Claire's fingers trembled in his. Their agreement required them to maintain the appearance of a committed couple around family, but there was something in Adrian's eyes that did not look like acting. After they left the estate, Claire noticed Ethan's luggage still in the car. You really came back from the airport? Adrian did not deny it. Why didn't you tell me? You didn't tell me you were coming here. I thought you had important work. Work can be rearranged. He paused. You should stop deciding whether your needs are convenient for everyone else. Claire turned toward the window. The remark touched the habit she least wanted to acknowledge. She hated causing trouble, so she handled everything alone. Eventually, everyone around her had learned that Claire would not ask for help. Adrian did not push the conversation. He merely raised the car's temperature when he noticed her hands were cold. That same evening, Ryan studied Vanessa's medical records for the first time. They showed that she had arrived at the emergency room conscious and stable. Imaging revealed no internal bleeding. The claim that she might need immediate surgery had come only through Vanessa's version of what the hospital supposedly said. When did a doctor tell you that you needed surgery? Ryan asked. Vanessa leaned against the sofa, her face slightly pale. Everything was chaotic. Maybe it was a nurse. Which nurse? I don't remember. Ryan watched her. Why did you call only me? Why didn't you call your parents? Tears filled her eyes. I was scared. You were the only person I could think of. In the past, those tears would have ended every question. Now Ryan saw Claire standing alone in her wedding dress before an empty altar. Vanessa, that was my wedding day. I know. I kept telling you to go back. But every time you said it, you held on to my hand. Vanessa's face went white. Ryan said nothing else. He stood and left. He still could not admit that he had destroyed the wedding himself. It was easier to believe that if he proved Vanessa had lied, Claire would forgive him. Claire had no time to think about either of them. North Star News had begun investigating the Bennett Family Foundation. Nearly $2 million had been transferred during the previous year to 3 supposed youth mental health organizations. Claire discovered that all 3 entities shared the same registered address and that their directors had ties to Vanessa's publicist. Claire did not abandon the story because it involved her family. She disclosed the conflict to her editor and withdrew from final editorial approval so no one could accuse her of controlling the conclusion. When Adrian learned about the investigation, he asked only, "Do you need a legal team?" "No. I can't let anyone say Sterling Capital is helping me retaliate." "All right." He did not insist. Several days later, Claire came home to find a public records guide on the dining table, along with 3 company identification numbers that might be connected to the shell organizations. There were no stolen files and no findings from private investigators. Adrian had provided only leads any journalist could legally pursue. A note lay on top. "You don't need my answers. You may appreciate a faster entrance." Claire read it twice and smiled. Adrian emerged from the study. "Did you find something?" "I found out you're very good at respecting boundaries." "Is that a compliment?" "For now." The corner of his mouth lifted. It was the first time Claire saw him truly smile. Their relationship changed through moments so small that neither could say exactly when the change began. Adrian remembered that she drank coffee without sugar but wanted something sweet at 4 in the afternoon. Claire learned that he adjusted his cuff links repeatedly before difficult meetings, not because he was vain, but because it was the only visible sign that he was nervous. She attended a Sterling Capital charity dinner with him. When a director implied that Adrian's marriage was merely a public relations strategy, Claire did not hide behind her husband. She raised her glass and said calmly, "However our marriage began, at least he doesn't abandon a commitment when it matters. For an investment company, I would consider that an advantage." Adrian looked at her for a long time. On the drive home, he suddenly said, "I went to the hospital looking for you 3 years ago. After the fire? You had already left. I only had mild smoke inhalation. I wasn't there to check your injuries." "Then why were you there?" Adrian was silent for a moment. "I wanted to ask you to dinner." Claire stared at him. "Why didn't you contact me later?" The next morning, the news reported your engagement to Ryan. The car fell quiet. Suddenly, many things looked different. Adrian had not reached the wedding in 40 minutes simply because he owed her his life. He had hidden everything he felt inside the safe explanation of repaying a debt. Claire did not press him. She was not yet ready to face what his confession might mean. But for the first time, she began to imagine that when the 2 years ended, she might not want to leave. The peace lasted less than a month. On a Monday morning, photographs of their marriage agreement appeared across entertainment sites. The images showed only selected phrases: 2-year term, separate property, termination by either party. The headlines did the rest. Sterling marriage exposed as fake. Bennett heiress used staged wedding to punish ex-fiancé. Vanessa published a long statement claiming she had always feared Claire was sacrificing her happiness in a moment of anger, but had been too afraid to reveal the truth. She also implied Claire and Adrian had been secretly involved before the wedding. Public opinion turned almost immediately. North Star News received demands that Claire be suspended from investigative programming. Sterling Capital's board called an emergency meeting, worried the scandal could damage the pending acquisition. Claire examined the leaked images and recognized the background as Henry's study at the Bennett estate. She had put a copy of the agreement in her bag after the family lunch. Only Vanessa and Eleanor had entered the study that afternoon. When Adrian returned from the board meeting, His expression was colder than Claire had ever seen it. My attorneys will sue every outlet that publishes the full document. A lawsuit won't solve this, Claire said. The harder you try to suppress it, the more guilty we'll look. I'll hold a press conference. And say what? That we signed an agreement but are deeply in love. I'll say I chose to marry you. That doesn't remove the pressure on North Star. It will make people say you're using your money to silence criticism of me. Adrian frowned. What are you proposing? Claire placed a signed termination agreement on the table. We end the marriage. You announce that you were only helping me that day and that I take full responsibility. The acquisition is protected, and North Star is no longer accused of serving your interests. Adrian stared at the pages. His expression darkened by degrees. You already signed this? It's the simplest solution. For whom? For you, the company, and the newsroom. You left out the part where you asked me. Claire faltered. Adrian pushed the papers back. When you were with Ryan, did you always decide what was best for him too? This is different. How? You still believe that if you leave first, no one else will be burdened by you. The words struck exactly where they were meant to. Claire's voice went cold. And what about you? When you turned around at the airport, sent lawyers, and managed public opinion, did you ask what I actually wanted? Adrian went silent. It was their first real fight. Claire packed a suitcase and returned to her own apartment. Adrian did not stop her. Before she left, he said, I won't sign the termination papers. Not because of our agreement. Because I won't let you decide for me whether staying is worth it. After the door closed, Claire leaned against the wall and finally cried. She was not crying because the marriage might end. She was crying because she had realized she did not want it to. For the next 2 weeks, Claire poured everything into the investigation. An emergency room nurse who had been on duty the day of Vanessa's accident contacted her. The nurse admitted that Vanessa's publicist had paid her $5,000 to use vague phrases with Ryan over the phone. Possible internal bleeding, emergency surgery may be necessary. In reality, Vanessa had needed 4 hours of observation and could have gone home that evening. More damaging evidence came from the car's dashboard camera. Before the crash, the driver asked, Are you sure we have to do this today? Vanessa answered, Today is the only day Ryan will come without hesitation. The driver then deliberately struck the guardrail at low speed. At the same time, the Foundation investigation reached its conclusion. The 3 shell organizations had not only paid Vanessa's publicity team. They had hired coordinated social media accounts to attack Claire, promote the fake marriage scandal, and purchase secretly recorded material. This was no longer jealousy between 2 women raised in the same family. It was organized fraud and embezzlement. Claire gave the evidence to North Star's legal department and sent a copy to Henry. Her grandfather read everything in silence. I knew Vanessa feared losing what she had, he finally said. I never imagined she would go this far. What are you going to do? Claire asked. Henry opened his safe and removed a document. I plan to announce at the annual shareholders' dinner that I was transferring control of my 25% voting block to you. Claire stared at him. Grandpa, I don't need shares to defeat her. This isn't about defeating Vanessa, Henry said. It's about returning the Bennett family to someone willing to take responsibility for it. On the night of the annual shareholders' dinner, Vanessa arrived at the hotel in a silver gown. She believed Claire had been suspended from North Star. She also believed Adrian would soon divorce Claire to protect his acquisition. Eleanor had even invited the press to witness Vanessa's appointment as executive chair of the Family Foundation, supposedly to stabilize its public image. Ryan had been invited too. Vanessa linked her arm through his. After tonight, everything will go back to the way it should be. Ryan pulled away. What does that mean? Claire leaves New York. You and I are together. Mom and Dad stop cleaning up her messes. Ryan looked at her and, for the first time, found her frighteningly unfamiliar. Did you arrange the accident? A flicker crossed Vanessa's face. Why are you asking me that now? Answer me. I only wanted to know who mattered more to you. The near confession left Ryan motionless. Vanessa clutched his sleeve. But you came, didn't you? You chose me. I'm not the one who hurt Claire. You are. The last color left Ryan's face. She was right about one thing. Even if the accident was staged, he was still the man who had walked out of the wedding. When the dinner began, Eleanor stepped onto the stage to announce the foundation's new leader. At that moment, the rear doors of the ballroom opened. Claire entered in a sharply tailored white suit. North Star's attorney and 2 investigative reporters followed her. A wave of whispers swept the room. Vanessa tightened her grip on her glass. "You have the nerve to come here?" "This is a Bennett Group shareholders' dinner," Claire said. "I own 10% of the company. Why wouldn't I be here?" She walked onto the stage and handed an encrypted drive to the technician. The first recording played through the ballroom speakers. "Are you sure we have to do this today?" "Today is the only day Ryan will come without hesitation." Vanessa's face went white. The screens then displayed hospital records, the nurse's testimony, shell company transfers, and contracts for coordinated online attacks. The room's surprise turned into anger. Charles jumped to his feet. "Turn that off." Henry rose with the help of his cane. "Let her continue." Claire did not look at her parents. She looked only at Vanessa. "You didn't do this because you were afraid of losing a family. You stole charity money, bought lies, and staged an accident because you believed anything that belonged to me needed your permission first." Tears flooded Vanessa's eyes. "You came back and stole my parents, my identity, and my fiancé." "I didn't take Ryan," Claire said. "He walked to you." Every gaze shifted toward him. Ryan came forward, his eyes red. "Claire, I didn't know the accident was fake." "I believe you." Hope flashed across his face. "Then you understand that I was deceived." "If I had known." "If you had known Vanessa wasn't in danger, perhaps you would have returned to the wedding," Claire interrupted. "But for 7 years, you believed her first and demanded that I understand afterward. You didn't lose me because she told one lie. You lost me because you repeatedly chose every lie that hurt me." Ryan's lips moved, but no defense came. Claire took out the engagement ring he had once given her. She had not worn it since the wedding. She had brought it tonight only to return it. She placed it in his palm. "You always said I would wait. Now you know I won't." Ryan closed his hand around the ring as though he were holding a life he could never recover. Eleanor hurried onto the stage. "Claire, this can be handled privately. Vanessa made a terrible mistake, but if you give this to the police, you'll destroy her." Claire looked at her mother. "When I came home at 22, you told me Vanessa was innocent and begged me not to ruin her life. Now she has stolen charity funds and staged an accident, and you still expect me to protect her." Eleanor's face turned ashen. "I will not carry the consequences of anyone else's favoritism again." Henry announced that Vanessa was immediately removed from every position in the foundation and the company. All evidence would be submitted to law enforcement and independent auditors. Then he transferred control of his 25% voting block to Claire. "From today forward, Claire represents my seat." Applause began in the back of the ballroom and spread through the crowd. At that moment, Adrian appeared at the entrance. He had no public relations team and no attorney speaking on his behalf. He walked to the stage alone. Claire's heartbeat stumbled when she saw him. They had not spoken in 2 weeks. Adrian took the microphone. "Some reports about my marriage agreement with Claire are true." The room fell silent. "I proposed the agreement. The time limit, the separate property, and the exit terms were all designed to make sure Claire still had a choice after what happened at the wedding." He looked at her. "The false part is that I married her for business." Adrian removed the unsigned termination agreement from his coat and tore it in half before everyone. "Sterling Capital never required me to marry. I wanted to pursue Claire 3 years ago. I was simply too late. When she called me on her wedding day, she wasn't asking for a backup man. I was finally being given the chance to stand beside her." Claire's eyes burned. Adrian came to her and lowered his voice so only she could hear. "I shouldn't have tried to solve everything for you. I shouldn't have made you feel that accepting help meant owing me. And I shouldn't have decided to leave for you," Claire said. "Then let's decide again." He took out the ring they had used at the clerk's office, but did not place it on her finger. "No 2-year limit. No public relations obligation. No one rescuing anyone. Claire, will you choose to begin this marriage with me for real?" Hundreds of people waited. Claire did not answer immediately. Adrian did not rush her. He simply waited. That was why she had fallen in love with him. He came when she called but never forced her to follow. He protected her but stepped back when she said she needed space. He said what he wanted while leaving the final choice in her hands. Claire extended her hand. I have one condition. Tell me. You don't get to make decisions for me again. Adrian nodded. Neither do you. She smiled. Deal. He returned the ring to her finger. 1 year later, Claire and Adrian held a small wedding beside the Hudson River. There was no live stream, no room full of business guests, and no one disappeared before the vows. Maya was the maid of honor. Ethan guarded the rings. Henry sat in the front row, smiling like a man who had finally put down a burden. Claire's parents were invited, but they sat in the back. Claire did not pretend the past had never happened. She simply gave them a chance to build a different relationship if they were willing to earn it. Vanessa remained under investigation for fraud and embezzlement. Ryan resigned from his position in the family company and left New York. He wrote Claire many letters of apology. She answered none of them. At the end of the aisle, Adrian watched Claire with the same unwavering attention he had shown the first time he arrived as her replacement groom. When the officiant asked whether she chose him, Claire did not hesitate. I do. After the ceremony, Maya slipped an arm through hers and asked, Have you ever wondered what really changed your life? Was it Ryan running away, or was it the phone call you made to Adrian? Claire looked at her husband walking toward her. Neither. Then what was it? It was the moment I decided to stop waiting for a man who always left me until tomorrow. Much later, Ryan asked Mark whether Claire had cried or caused a scene at the wedding he had missed. Mark told him the truth. She hadn't. She had simply chosen another groom.